It was supposed to be a peaceful Sunday morning in rural Kentucky, a sanctuary filled with hymns and healing, but what unfolded was a nightmare that would haunt an entire community forever. 2 innocent lives lost, a church soaked in blood, and a state trooper fighting for his life, all because of one man's madness. If you're watching this, stay with us until the end, because what you're about to hear is not just a story about tragedy, but about courage, faith, and a town forever changed. And don't forget to hit subscribe and tap the bell so you never miss these real-life stories that matter. In a small Kentucky town where the church bell usually rings to summon hope, it rang that day as a chilling echo to gunfire, screaming, and sirens, the kind of sound that silences prayer and leaves even the strongest believers questioning everything. It began just before the morning service at Mount Zion Baptist Church, nestled between cornfields and gravel roads, where families gather every week like clockwork, dressed in their Sunday best, clutching Bibles and casseroles, smiling at neighbors, and greeting the pastor with warm hugs and laughter. Among them were 66-year-old Elder Ronald Triggs, the senior deacon who never missed a service in 25 years, and 57-year-old Miss Laura Jenkins, a choir leader with a voice that could melt your soul. They were the backbone of that church, the kind of people who held broken hearts and mended community wounds. But as they opened the doors that morning, no one knew that the man about to walk in wasn't coming to pray, he was coming to kill. The shooter was identified later as 41-year-old Marcus Hale, a man with a known criminal past, mental health issues, and a restraining order against him for previous threats made to a family member who happened to attend the church. What no one knew was that Marcus had been spiraling in the weeks leading up to the shooting, losing his job, claiming demons were chasing him, and telling his mother he had to cleanse the sin from that building. On that day he pulled up in a battered Ford truck, parked behind the fellowship hall, and loaded his AR-15 style rifle, a weapon he should have never had his hands on legally. And as the first notes of the organ filled the sanctuary, Marcus was already in motion. He walked in through the side door, unfazed, eyes glassy, heart steady, and opened fire without a word. The first bullet struck Ronald in the chest and neck, killing him instantly. As he stood by the door greeting newcomers, the choir fell silent, screams erupted, pews overturned as worshippers dove to the floor or crawled toward exits. Some stayed to help the fallen, including Laura, who tried to shield a child from the gunman and was fatally shot in the back. All this happened in under 2 minutes before Marcus fled the scene, leaving behind shattered stained glass, blood-spattered hymnals, and a trauma so deep it would take years to even begin to heal. A call went out to Kentucky State Police immediately, and Trooper Caleb Hayes, a 28-year-old officer who'd only been on the force for 3 years, was the first to spot the suspect's vehicle speeding down a back road. What happened next was caught on dashcam footage later reviewed by investigators. Trooper Hayes attempted to initiate a traffic stop when Marcus opened fire from his truck, striking the trooper in the shoulder and causing him to crash into a ditch. Despite being hit, Hayes managed to radio backup and return fire, keeping Marcus pinned down until other officers arrived. The ensuing standoff lasted over an hour, ending only when Marcus was shot in the leg and apprehended alive, screaming nonsense about God, punishment, and blood sacrifice. The news hit national headlines within hours, but for the people of Mount Zion it was more than news, it was personal. The next Sunday the church was silent. Empty pews draped in black cloth, candles lit where Ronald and Laura once sat, a community held each other tight, unsure whether to grieve, rebuild, or simply breathe. And as always the question arose: how could this happen here? Why would someone bring death into a house of worship? What signs were missed? And how do we stop the next one? Through the sorrow emerged powerful voices, including Trooper Hayes, who survived and later told reporters, "I didn't run because those people deserved someone who wouldn't." His bravery was honored by the governor, and his recovery was long and painful, but filled with purpose. And then there was Pastor Harmon, who buried 2 of his closest friends and still stood before his congregation weeks later and said, "Even in this, God is with us." In the aftermath, Kentucky lawmakers re-examined loopholes in gun laws related to domestic violence and mental health, and the small town of Harlan County raised over $300,000 to rebuild and secure Mount Zion Baptist Church, installing surveillance, armed guards, and emergency exits. But no amount of metal or policy could erase the trauma or bring back the lives taken. Ronald's wife Sarah still places flowers at the altar every Sunday. Laura's daughter leads the choir now, her mother's favorite hymn echoing through the rafters as a kind of spiritual defiance against evil. If you've watched this far, take a moment to honor Ronald and Laura, to recognize the bravery of Trooper Hayes, and to understand that every small town, every church, and every life has a story worth telling, a loss worth mourning, and a lesson worth learning. Subscribe now for more real stories that reveal the strength behind tragedy, the people who rise from the ashes, and the moments that change everything. We're not here to just share news, we're here to keep their memory alive, so like this video, comment "Rest in peace" if you stand with the community of Mount Zion, and share it with someone who needs to understand how fast peace can be shattered, how deep love can run, and how even the darkest Sunday can become a story of light. Stay safe, stay aware, and remember, behind every headline is a heartbeat, one we promise to never forget.